a big lead. Well, tonight they have to prove it. Quick pass. This is complete to Sample. Sample at the 10. Sample at the 5. Touchdown!
COLTBRENNAN, by far the greatest QB. Oh, you don't know? The one that took UH to 12-0. The spiral with the greatest of ease. So many comebacks, triple OTs. Teams on their knees because it hurt. Aloha Stadium going berserk. And you wonder what's your purpose, Colt? It's already wrote, the love of the GOAT. So all my bows, please sing with me and let the world know.
I mean, I'm gonna come back probably. It's just, everyone out there would call me literally an idiot if I didn't really, see what the other guy had to say.
Nation flat home, they're back warriors, oh warrior, true backs, legend 15 remains.
I feel like Coach Jones at the University of Hawaii
we love you, Colt.
gave me an opportunity at a time when no one else would. And I've been a part of something special these last 2 years, and I decided to come back for my senior year.
I remember that day vividly, man. I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like thinking, now he gonna stay. The next minute, now he gonna leave. And that moment that he said he was staying, I swear, I screamed like a girl.
It felt like the entire state was beaming with pride over our team.
That was a great memory for me. That whole season when you guys went 12-0 and on to the Sugar Bowl.
Just thanks for coming to UH. Thanks for picking us. Thanks for bringing us on that magical ride.
Thank you for everything you do, Colt.
As well as a big lead. Well, tonight they have to prove it. Quick pass. This is complete to Sample. Sample at the 10. Sample at the 5. Touchdown!
COLTBRENNAN, by far the greatest QB. Oh, you don't know? The one that took UH to 12-0. The spiral with the greatest of ease. So many comebacks, triple OTs. Teams on their knees because it hurt. Aloha Stadium going berserk. And you wonder what's your purpose, Colt? It's already wrote, the love of the GOAT. So all my bows, please sing with me and let the world know.
I'm gonna come back probably. It's just, everyone out there would call me literally an idiot if I didn't really, see what the other guy had to
The
say.
nation flat home, they're back warriors, oh warrior, true backs, legend 15 remains.
I feel like Coach Jones at the University of Hawaii
we love you, Colt.
gave me an opportunity at a time when no one else would. And I've been a part of something special these last 2 years, and I decided to come back for my senior year.
I remember that day vividly, man. I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like thinking, now he gonna stay. The next minute, now he gonna leave. And that moment that he said he was staying.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. I just got to share this video, our tribute, our heart, our aloha, and I'm feeling it all again because those are my friends, and super great memories, Colt. I mean, how do you feel after watching that video?
No, that was awesome. I really enjoyed hearing the people stay because I forget how long ago it was I was in college. But it's cool to go back and reminisce and then to hear people say a lot of nice things. It's obviously a great feeling.
Well, that's not more than Colt Brennan, the human, whom we love and whom we are, still indebted to in many ways. But it's Colt Brennan, that era, that culture that you added to our program that a lot of people remember. So you might forget it, but I'm sure you don't forget having people line up and try and talk to you and that whole phenomenon. What was that like for you? Just talk about that period.
I mean, it was a great experience because, you have all these aspirations when you go into like maybe college, even high school or college. And I would easily say that whatever I aspired to, it far exceeded that beyond all expectation. I always joked around my senior year, when I would be like, oh, I'm gonna go pick up whatever, like some steaks or whatever at the market. I'll be back in a half hour, because it would take so long to go through just. No, I'm sorry. It would take so long to go through, just like, you know, everyone was so nice, so kind.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the biggest blessings is like Hawaii being what it is, and then like you think of like a lot of like the notoriety that comes from Hawaii. Obviously, like surfing, a lot of guys that surf and come from Hawaii. But I was really blessed because I had success here, and one thing that they really admire and preach for public figures is humility.
Yes.
And so as I was coming up and having, you know, kind of the spotlight shined on me, I was surrounded by the coolest teammates, and I was surrounded by a culture that was like, yo, don't let this get to your head. You know, you're just as normal as everyone else, but you have a gift, and so whether it was camaraderie with my teammates, whether it was going out in public and just feeling the aloha from the fans and the people, it's what made it, you know, so awesome, and then what made me and shaped me as a human being even more. And you know, I continue to live with a lot of humility to this day. At least I aspire to. I love giving back. I love coaching kids and youth, and I just love being a part of Hawaii. And in the smallest, you know, yesterday I was down getting some food, and I was sitting with a girl who wasn't from the islands, and this guy came up and he like gave me a big shaka and like waved to me and everything. And she was like, "Oh, who is that?" And I'm like, "I don't know who that is." I mean, but I was like, "Hey, what up?" But like, it was that's just kind of the funness and the cool thing about it. And you know, as much as I had all this success, you know, so much to my teammates and my guys that turned in some of my best friends, you know, they were with me on it, and it was a cohesive effort to try and do something special. And I'm glad we got close to doing something, you know, pretty awesome, not only for us as football players, but for the state of Hawaii.
Well, we did do something very awesome. Remember that's an era that'll never be forgotten, and it's a time that, as you see in some of those highlights, how crazy and rabid our fans were, and they're still there, Colt. They're still there. Our fans are still there, but they're not showing up like that before. And like bringing guys like you on, people that aspire to be like you, kids that looked up to you. They want to be in that uniform still. 13 years later, they still think about Colt Brennan wearing that uniform. But talk about just that fan support and that love you felt from the stands every time you stepped onto the stadium.
Yeah, there was, I recently did a podcast from the East Coast, and I was mentioning how like playing here in Hawaii is so different, you know, and I mentioned about island fever. Guys will come here from the mainland to go to school here, and but like what you don't realize is that like Hawaii's in its own entity out here. I mean, it's one of the most isolated places in the world, and so guys would come out here and like normal things like Monday Night Football. That's like 2:00 in the afternoon, you know, and it's just different, and guys can feel cut off to the mainland. But when you come here, I remember in my early years, you know, I believe it was our women's volleyball and men's volleyball. I know women's for sure was like led the country in attendance. And so it was awesome how Hawaii supported its high schools and its college sports. You know, it's a really awesome thing. And so when I got here and I started playing and we started having fun, when we would go out there and play, it wasn't like we were just playing for our own personal, you know, self. It was like we were playing for the state of Hawaii. It's one thing to say that, but we as players, we felt that. We knew we were representing Hawaii.
And we could tell, you know, the stories are great. You tasirua torufa'ing on the line and learning all your Samoan words and putting the islands on the side of your head, and you know, talk about what that meant to you, embedding our culture into your lifestyle, into your personality.
Well, you know, that's cool because I grew up in Southern California on the beach. You know, I loved my Sublime. I loved my Slightly Stoopid. And my favorite artist of all time is Bob Marley. So when I got here, I just fell in love with the culture. And then I guess what was awesome was that, you know, it was pretty cool because you have a language requirement when you go to the University of Hawaii. And we had so many Polynesians, especially Samoans on the team, that a lot of guys took some Samoan. and which was really funny too, because the guys from Samoa would take Samoan. And so but it helped you though in class.
True.
You would start,
it's free tutoring.
You go out to practice. You start learning the lingo. You start, you start just basically practicing it, and then by the time you got it, it made it that much easier. And then, sure enough, we were calling audibles in Samoan, and when we would play Polynesian players, I would talk trash in Samoan, and I fell in love with the culture. And then it was Blaise Soares, who was a great player for us, local boy.
Yep.
He had some funny haircuts in the spring going into my senior year. Like I remember he had stars, bleached hair.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Me and him got along really well. And I remember he had told me, like, oh, man, I got this idea to put the islands in my hair. And I was like, bro, let's do it together. And
nice.
so we drove down to his auntie's house. His auntie was a hairstylist in Kaneohe. But it reminded me of, like, what you would see on Dog the Bounty Hunter. It was like Devadio, like he was different, Like I was a little intimidated, but then we sat there and his auntie did it for us. And then it was, but I was excited to do it because, it was also like another thing was like, even though it might have looked a little bit showy, or it was more of a humility way. We had so many dynamic haircuts on the team. We had, guys with dreads, guys with the long, bushy hair coming out of their helmets. We had so many haircuts, and I always had this clean shaved head, and so it was a way for me to kind of embrace the culture and embrace my teammates. And, I look back at some pictures. Some pictures look better than others, but sometimes I shake my head like, I can't believe I did that. I couldn't believe I did it, but I was glad I did it.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's funny because, hey, like you said, you forgot how long ago it was. It is, and you're a kid, you're just having fun, and you took us on this ride, but you were trying to figure out for yourself as well as it's going along. And, that media scrutiny and the people that come out of nowhere and they want to know all these things about you, that's just noise outside of the game and our fan base, because all we care about is winning and being somebody who, behind someone who leads us in that way. And that's what you did from the very beginning. I'm going to take you back. I guess we know kind of the story of your tape and June getting a hold of it, but you share with me a little bit about when he had approached you and you looking back at the team's records specifically to see what the team was on. And talk about that.
Yes. So basically, my receiver in junior college was the same receiver that played for Boise State and caught the hook and ladder in that famous Oklahoma.
Yep.
And he was a great receiver. He was being recruited to a lot of schools. And so we got a recruiting trip out here right before the Chibi Chang's Holiday Bowl or Hawaii Bowl. And basically we came out, we got to see the team practicing on our recruiting trip, which is, if you get, it's hard to do recruiting trips during the fall because you're playing high school football, and so it was kind of like, it was different for us, where we got to go out there and watch the guys practicing. And I remember looking across the board at all the O-linemen and all these big polys, and then I was like, dang, man, those guys blocked for us? Like, that is awesome. And then I was looking at all the young guys that weren't even starters, just redshirt guys. All these guys like Devon and Ryan with their dreads, but there was talent on the team. And when you go on a recruiting trip, the most common thing, you get a media guide when you leave and everything. And so I remember I was home, and I obviously loved Hawaii. I loved my trip out here. It was always right at the forefront. And I flipped over the back of the media guide, which had like the last 10 years records. And the 4 years prior till I got there was 2 9-wins, a 10-win, and an 8-win season. So they were basically averaging 9 wins a season. And they had wins over Alabama. They had wins over Northwestern. They had, like, Michigan State, I believe, as well. Like, they had some really marquee wins. And they proved they can play with the big boys. And, I looked across the board. I'm like, this team knows how to win. And it just, I really look back, I'm like really proud of myself for seeing that. So I ended up turning down the scholarship. My cousin at the time was the receiver coach at San Jose State. He's now Brennan. He's now the head coach for San Jose State.
That's right.
But I turned down a scholarship where, it could have been easy to go up and know that I'd be nurtured and know that I'd be with family. but I was too attracted to the idea of Hawaii, and it just felt right.
Yeah.
And when I made the decision, I'm like, this team wins, and they got talent, and I'm so glad I came.
Well, we're so glad you did come as well, because, for us, that period of, like you said, before you got there, we saw a resurgence. I was there every game too. In '98, we lost every single game. We were 0-12. To see us be 12-0 in 2007, it's crazy. I mean, I can barely talk about it without getting choked up. That's how much it was amazing to just be a winner for once. But, I also was there for a special day. That was your first start. I remember sitting next to your dad at Michigan State.
Cool.
And I literally was like, who is this kid? Okay, I remember he came in. I know Tyler started the first game, but when you were given the keys to the car, I mean, that's when it was time, and the Colt Brennan show. I mean, that game, I know USC didn't start off that good. You had that pick six in the first drive. But, at Michigan State, you definitely had to get right into Lions Den, because they were brutal. The fans were brutal. We were wearing silver jerseys that nobody in the media could even see, apparently, from up there in the press box. And we were still putting on a show. I remember you talk about Samoans like Greg Mauia. That's a guy I'd love to have in front of me all the time. But what a game that was, and just your memories from that one.
So it was actually cool. Yeah, I got my first start, and I remember the kickoff was early. I don't know if you remember, but it wasn't like 12 o'clock. It was before 12 o'clock. And I remember tripping because we're like waking up 3 o'clock our time to play them. And it's just like, man, this is good. I remember being in the locker room before the game and just feeling like, God, it doesn't feel like game day just because you're trying to wake up still. And we went into the game, and I remember I had some good moments in the game. I remember June was telling me good things, and I competed. I think that was the best thing I did. Even though we were getting beaten, I competed. I competed in it, and I kept coming. And then I remember I think we hit their quarterback late, and they got a 15-yard penalty, and they were already up a little bit. And so it was fourth quarter, I believe, and I rolled out and tried to throw a pass, and one of their guys hit me late, and I ended up slightly separating my shoulder.
Oh.
And so, I'm not horrible, but I did. So I sat the rest of the game, and so I was just kind of on the bench, right? And at this moment, there's probably 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and people are kind of starting to leave because they had beaten us pretty handily. And my dad comes down, and he kind of goes, "Hey," and I kind of look up, I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Hey, man, isn't this awesome?" And and I was kind of in the dumps. We were losing, and I hurt my shoulder. And he's like, "Isn't this cool, man? Like, think about it, And it was a cool moment. People talk about meditation. You'll get in the pose.
You do,
but,
yes.
But like, meditation is also when you sit there and you have a chance to take in the moment.
Yes.
1,000%.
Yes.
Completely take in the moment. And I looked around at the crowd in the stadium, and where I had been a year earlier was like completely night and day difference. To think about where I was a year earlier in a jail cell, in a trial, to being a year later and being at Michigan State starting my first game, it was all the redemption I needed. And I realized, man, this is awesome. I'm going to enjoy every second of this. And I think I did a good job of appreciating every moment because I have great stories and great memories on all 3 years.
Yeah, that year we don't talk about it enough probably, and you grew so much. That's the year you really had to bite that steep curve of getting to know Hawaii and learning that we are not like anywhere else, and the stuff that can fly other places does not fly in Hawaii. But at the same time, if you embrace us and embrace our culture and what we're about as local people, you will be successful. I know like Lono Manners, I think, was on the team, that 2005 team, and talk about some of those boys.
Yeah, so Lono Manners, I loved him. I'm trying to think. Derek Faavi, my center, he was a great leader, a great guy. Trying to think who else. So Bradshaw, he was a defensive back. I think it was. I forget right now, but it's hard.
It's hard. That's a season that but it was so because it was 5-win season, right? We were 5-7, I believe, that year.
Kaika Kernan.
Oh yeah, Kaika Kernan, of course, yes.
I'll never forget one of my favorite moments in the spring of that year. And TJ, was it Manavasamoy or TJ
Manavasamoy? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I was walking from from lower campus to upper campus, and a Kaika Kernan was coming down, because that's the walk we make when you're at Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
And Kaika's like, what's up, Colt? I'm like, what up, dog? I'm going to class. And he's like, yo, we're having a barbecue today. It was down in Waikiki, I think it was down by the Memorial area.
Yeah.
He's like, come on
Kaimana.
down. And so 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I drove down there, and I was sitting there, and like 4 of his friends came out, like it was straight out of a movie, with their spears over there and all these fish. And we sat down and we had a blast, and we cooked the fish and oysters, and it was just a great experience. And also, just on that note, one of my favorite experiences was after the SC game. I was really good friends with Jack Rolovich.
Okay, yeah.
Nick's
And we just saw
younger brother.
Jack. We just saw him at Boise. So shout out Jack. Well, shout out Jack. He's a cool
What
guy.
up, Jack? Yeah, he was a great guy. Him and Nick were really, really good to me, and really took care of me. And after the game, Jack was like, we're going to go out to the North Shore tomorrow and go to a barbecue. And I was like, oh, sweet, man, I'd love to go. Can I bring my sisters? Can we go? He's like, no problem. So we all drive out, and we get out to there. And I forget what beach it was at, but we get out, and it's like 3 white people getting out of the car with Jack. And there's this local contingency of people, and they all turned. And I remember being a little intimidated for a second, because there was more than them. And it was, sorry, man.
No worries. It's better. It's better this way. We get more action. I love it.
Yeah. It was Gerald Welch.
Oh,
and,
yep. There you go. Yeah,
and
that's St. Louis boy.
All of his kids and his family, and they were just like, hey, what up? And it was just, and I remember at the end of the barbecue, it was a blast. My sisters had a blast. We all had a blast, local style. And then I remember asking Gerald, I was like, hey, man, do you think I can call you up and come out and hang out with you and visit you? He's like, anytime, Cole. Anytime you want to come out, more than welcome. And I remember in the springtime, both my after my sophomore and my junior year, I would go out, and it would be like a couple times a month. I had a total mix that I would put on my car, and I'd head out over the Leaky and then get on the highway, and I would have this mix that I'd always play just to hang out with them, because
That's
I
awesome.
I loved everything about that side of the island. I loved
the drive from Manoa. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. So those are a lot of fun, very small moments, but have a lasting for life impact.
Well, those moments are really the building blocks for you, and you applied them to the field and your love for your teammates. We move into 2006. I'm going to take you back to another game I was at in Tuscaloosa, and the people are a little bit nicer to us there. I went by myself. I was in college in the Northeast, and I flew down, and I just wanted to be there when our team was on the same field as Alabama on their field, and I believe that we would win that game. I believe going there that we were going to win that game, and I thought we should have won it, but that doesn't matter, because that experience was amazing, just being there. But, just talk about that experience from Michigan State. Now we're talking about Alabama.
Yeah, it's funny. I was a communications major, and I did this thing. It's a video on YouTube, but I brought a camcorder with us that year.
Okay.
And I have some amazing footage of us going to the Alabama game on game day in the hotel, messing around, having fun.
Oh, we got to find that. We got to find that tape.
A classmate of mine teamed up with me because he was really good at the editing. I kind of had the footage and the story. We teamed up and made this really cool this video, and then I think it's me, Nate Alawa, and Mel Purcell that do the interview, just talking about our experience. But my point of the whole story is that I shot this great footage, and the experience was the experience was awesome.
Yes.
And I remember we get into the game, and I remember we run out of the tunnel, and the first thing we were like, dude, check out these girls. They're all in they all wore sundresses. Remember that?
Yep.
And it was like, and then, of course, all their guys were in their Abercrombie collared shirts.
Yep. Their ties.
We had to slap each other like, yo, we got to play a game. But I remember we came out, though, and we were jittery in the first half. There was misplays by me. I know, Devon and them had some drop balls. There may have even been, it was just kind of, it was our, I think the stadium expanded to 98,000.
Yeah, it just had opened. Exactly.
At that moment, it was the most people to ever go to an Alabama game that day.
Yeah, it was.
But in the second half rolled around, we settled in, and all of a sudden we start making this comeback.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty awesome because I had one of the most like iconic moments of my life on a football field that game. We're making a comeback. I know. I think Reagan scored. I think we're maybe down by down by 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But we're driving down, and we run this play called Army, and Ryan Grice-Mullins runs the streak down the sideline, and I just throw it up, and it's like 98,000 people like. Well, you can't even hear the guy standing right next to you. It's that deafening.
Yep.
And so the ball takes off, and then it goes behind my lineman, and I don't, I'm kind of like, oh, what happened,
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes like, and it was just dead silent. 98,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs to dead silent. And I was like, dude, what happened? What happened? And then I see Ryan Grice-Mullins in the end zone, like dancing and stuff. And I just, of all the times I've been on a football field, I've never seen that. I've never experienced that happen. So many, because there wasn't that many Hawaii people, so it wasn't like
it wasn't.
But,
I was there. I remember that moment. I went crazy on the concourse. I sat in the front row next to the handicap area, actually. So I had a lot of room, and that was, wow, chicken skin moment.
Well, like, that whole thing in, like, the orchestra where the guy goes like this,
mm-hmm.
And everything just stops.
Yep.
I mean, 98,000 people after the touchdown, Ryan catches it, and it's like just silence. And so that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we showed ourselves that we played with this team at their house.
Yep.
And it gave us confidence. We rolled week 2 against UNLV. We smacked them. And then we went into a shootout with Boise State.
Oh, yeah.
And like a lot of the games we lost, it was that close to us winning,
And we're still chasing that team, Colt Brennan. 13 years later, we're still chasing them. But to be where they are, you talked about your teammate who played in that illustrious game. You can go back to that game and say like, oh, that game that Statue of Liberty. No one's gonna ever forget that moment in college football, but no one's ever gonna forget a lot of your moments too, and a lot of them happened that 2006 year. I know that Oregon State game is also another painful game. You got a great crowd for that game too. Talk about that one.
That was a great game, and I had a routine where when I get to the field before the game, I go like up and down the field with my receivers,
mm-hmm.
and just routes versus air,
mm-hmm.
just to get it going, get the vibe going. But this is before we get pads on and all that. We get to the stadium. We got a couple hours before kickoff, and so me and my receivers. And then usually when that happens, the away team arrives. And so they were walking across the field,
mm-hmm.
and Coach Riley he played the best mind game on me, and I've ever seen in my life. Because usually when teams, the opposing team walk by you, they got this mug look, on their face, like we're going to get you.
Yep.
And Oregon State was a good team. They disrupted USC's national championship hopes that year. And they were a 10-win team. They were a good team.
They were.
So they're walking on the field, and then I remember I'm sitting there getting ready. We're kind of by the end zone, by the locker rooms, and Coach Riley comes up and he's like, "Look at this guy. This guy's gonna have some fun today." And he came up and like high-fived me and and I was like, man, dude, he like totally did the Buddhist trick.
He totally did. That sounds like a Mike Riley. He's the one that steals all our recruits too. Yeah.
He was the coolest coach, man. He was so nice and so cool, and I was like, what the? But in that game, oh God, I remember there were 2 picks that. Well, there was one where I'll never forget, because we were going up and down the field on them offensively.
Yeah.
But there was one where we had like, I think it was either an out or a corner, and then the guy sticks it and goes back to the post.
Yeah.
And Devon ran up on the dude, and he stuck him, and then he went to come out, and he slipped coming out. And the ball was right there. Devon would have been right there, but Devon hits the ground, and the safety's just sitting there. And it was like, if he doesn't slip, dude, we catch that touchdown, game different.
Yeah.
And then I remember throwing a corner route. I think it was Ross Dickerson. And they had a great safety, Oregon State, that I forget his name right now, but he was a really, really big-time safety.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they both went up for it. And, Ross wasn't the tallest of receivers, but he able to fight it away. And then there were some fumbles, I think. It was just one of those games where offensively it wasn't about us scoring. It's just a couple mistakes here and there, and that's why we didn't win the game.
Well, you make those mistakes in 2006, but it seems like
Right.
the 2007 season really started in 2006 at that ASU game. You go into a game that, a game that we had to win really to establish that next tier kind of for us as a mid-major type of program. But talk about, going into that game and you feeling it because you had to pull some heroics out too in that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. I just remember the first half, it wasn't that we were doing bad. It just, things weren't quite clicking for whatever the reason was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we only got 3 points in the first half or something like that. I can't remember, to be honest with you, but maybe a touchdown. I don't know. But I remember we go in the locker room and we're all kind of jaded because our junior year, besides Boise and Oregon State, we mopped everybody.
Yeah.
We crushed everyone that year. I mean, when I look back at all the years, my first year is the funnest to watch because I'm like this young little pony out there just doing the craziest stuff. My junior year, I found my stride. And then, like, my senior year, it was kind of like I felt like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning where I just was I knew what I wanted to do, knew what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And so basically going in at halftime, Coach McKnight, who was beloved by all of the team, he came into the locker room and was like, "Hey man, get your heads are you kidding me? What and he gave this great halftime speech where he was like, "Man, this ain't nothing, man. We're down by 7 points? Are you kidding me right now?" And it was something to that effect. And dude, we came out in the second half and we just let it rip and we went off and everything clicked and the crowd was great. I mean, I know I broke the TD record thing, but I don't even remember it like that. It was just, we were a machine in the second half. Just go score, go score, go score. And there were some classic moments out there. One of my favorite moments, we scored 2 touchdowns, and then now we get the ball back, and now we're on a roll. And we run this famous play called Divide. It's my favorite play. So 4 of the receivers are going downfield. And I throw this dart to Ryan Grice-Mullins, and he jumps up and catches it. And one of Arizona State's defensive linemen, he was Polynesian. He was really talking trash. He was really getting in my face. I think he hit me pretty hard one play. He was really getting in me. And so this actually aired on the TV version that was on ESPN. But I throw the touchdown, and then they're doing the highlights, and then it shows me throwing the touchdown. And then it shows me walking up to the defensive guy that's getting in trouble, and I'm just sorry. And
No
I'm just
worries.
in his face. I don't even know what I said, but it was every cuss word that you could think of, right? And I'm just like, I'm in his face, and actually, I couldn't remember because Tala Serra was the kind of guy that would do this, but he was grabbing his groin like he got hit in the junk. And so that made me mad even more, And so then I get in this guy's face and I'm just like motherfucking him. And then the best part is at the end of the clip, I'm not even done talking trash, and Samson Satelli just comes bull rushing in, and it's just and I always,
oh man, these
awesome
names too was just wow, yeah.
Yeah, me being, who I was and this, and having those Polynesians and those big guys behind me, it was like I was their little puppy. No one's going to mess with it, It was like they had a lot of pride in taking care of me. And so, here I am giving it to this guy, and Santa's like, "Colt, get out of the way. I'm going to yell at him."
Yeah.
So it was pretty dope.
I love that. I mean, they were always going to have your back, and those are some guys you definitely want on your back, too. Just played with such a nasty attitude, but I'm sure you got to see their soft-hearted side too, so that's how you know you're.
They were funny, man. They were really funny.
But we talked about. Yeah, you're good. We talked about. Well, we showed that video earlier, and a lot of that video is right after that Arizona State game, and you say in the press conference, "I'm probably coming back." Were you thinking that? Were you just saying that at that moment, or were you just like, "Oh my God, I'm letting it all out," or what was it like? Emotions?
To be honest, I didn't even know. Even when the girl, I didn't know there wasn't really talks about me going into the NFL. That wasn't really something that was being discussed. And then all of a sudden, I had this great outing in the Hawaii Bowl, and then I don't know. I guess I remember the ESPN Sports Center goes, "Are you going to go or are you going to stay?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." You know, and I was like, I wasn't thinking of leaving.
Yeah.
I was thinking of staying. And so I guess what you see in that is me just being honest. Like,
Yeah.
I was planning on coming back, like, you know, but I do know as that was coming into fruition that I still, you know, I had a good father, smart man. We still had to go see what the opportunity presented itself. And when we did that, the paperwork came back from the NFL like, yo, second round pick, potential first round pick. And then it was like, oh, now I got to really think about this, you know? And I guess, you know, like with the love I get from Hawaii, you know, like I could have left my junior year and probably got drafted really high. But they told me that the hip surgeries I had were of some type of genetic origin. And so the last thing you would have wanted was to get drafted really high and then have to be surgery prone, be bust up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I genuinely came back because I wanted to. I built such a good relationship with my teammates, and I loved Hawaii. I just loved everything about it. I wasn't in the, you know, I know a lot of kids going to college with the ambition, I got to get to the NFL. But for me, I was like, man, this is so dope. Why would I leave? And I'm glad I stayed.
I just wanted to let that sit because it sounds amazing. So, I mean, that, you know, you gave us a gift of 2007, and we're going to start talking about that because, you know, for me personally, that was my first year coming. I was in college in New York. We're the same age. I was in college in New York. I came back, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm an adult now, and I'm going to get my own season tickets. So, like, I, you know, go as a kid, get my mom, drop me off, whatever, uncles, aunties, but you know, that was my first year. My friend Sarah and I and my friend Dawson, and we had tickets in the front row, and I still sit there to this day. But the magic that we saw on the field, you know, it was something else. But when you go back to that season, particularly the games, and we had some crazy games that year. Of course, you know, we had the Northern Colorados, and we had those that weird. You had a weird Idaho game too, where you had to like run it in. Do you remember that game? Was that season? That 2007 season?
Yeah, that was a game I threw a bunch of picks, but we crushed them. You know, so it was like, and then San Jose State. But that was also when I was dealing with the ankle injury.
Yeah.
And,
you
know, I've lost a lot of the records that I had set and everything, and I never was in.
Oh, you still got tons of records. Don't worry, Cole. We're always going to remember them.
Well, the one, though, that I'm really the most proud of, though, is I'm the most accurate quarterback in the history of college football. Like, I freaking love that. That's just so awesome. And especially when you have a name named after the greatest gun in the Wild West, you know? And so I love that. And so I remember I had this bad ankle. I was shooting it up every week. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I was very accurate. And when you can't feel your foot that well and you're just off, you know?
Yeah.
Those 2 weeks, the Idaho game and the San Jose State game, it allowed people to make a lot of interceptions because my ball was right there. It just wasn't in the perfect place.
Yeah.
And so basically,
I mean, just a little bit of your mechanics. We know that as a quarterback, just a tiny change in your trajectory of the ball, you know, a little bit of too much compensation on one side. You know, and for you were slinging it through like needles, holes and everything. I don't know what your eyes of needles is crazy.
Well, like my favorite part is, you know, I didn't throw a lot of picks in my career. I threw 9 in 2 games, but we won both those games.
Yes,
so who cares? You
of
know,
course, yeah. It's all about winning.
Yeah.
And you did that a lot that year as well, but like you said, you took some hits. I mean, that Fresno game, I still remember walking back to my car and being really angry about that. Very angry that happened to you. But what do you remember about that moment?
Like, I remember it pretty good. I mean, I remember especially after I woke up and everything. Like, but I remember I've seen it, obviously. My biggest animosity toward it is that it's my most watched YouTube video. It's like, come on, dog.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Everybody wants to see me getting knocked out cold, but I spun out, and like I said, I didn't have my mobility that I had like my first 2 years. And I got outside. It was like we had to get it was 3rd and like 10 or whatever, and dude, I think it was Marcus Riley. Yeah, he just came downhill and he just lit me up. And I understand because the whole helmet to helmet thing now, that wasn't really around quite yet as much, you know? Like, yeah. And so he just laid me out. And I remember I was in after I got back to the locker room, I was out of it. I didn't really kind of know everything, and I was kind of just like trying to find my bearings. And then my dad walked in the locker room, and it was like everything came right back. I'm like, oh, it was third down. I spun out. I was thinking of cutting back, and then black, and then but yeah, it was my dad like helped spark my whole memory. But when I saw Marcus Riley at the Pro Bowl my rookie year, I'm like, bro, I've never been that high after getting hit, man. I mean, I was just in la la la.
Wow. Yeah. I mean that's just a moment that just showed how much adversity you had to go through that year. I mean, this is a reminder that it's not a direct line to where we ended up, but that Nevada game, your teammates had to really rally around. And your kicker, pulled off it's a really great feat. I mean, what do you remember about that Nevada game?
Well, I remember one of my favorite parts when we go to like UNLV in Nevada. When we went to the Nevada game, we stayed in a hotel that had a casino, but like we're all in college, we're not making money, we don't have money to gamble, but they had this like section of the hotel that was kind of, it was like games, like gambling games, where you'd win stuffed animals and stuff like that. And so like that was my best part is when we're playing Reno, Nevada. They got like ESPN, and they're showing us getting off the bus, and everyone's got a stuffed animal over their shoulder getting off the bus.
Oh, that's the story behind that. Okay.
Yeah, even flying home, we had all our stuffed animals. But it's like we would go down to play the game. We'd all win these stuffed animals, and so I just love that memory. But basically, going into the game, I knew Jim Jones. He wanted me to play a little bit. If he didn't have to play me, that was his idea.
Of course.
Tyler Gronke had always been a very talented quarterback. I think we pushed each other and made ourselves better.
Absolutely.
There was no doubt that we knew Tyler could get the job done.
No doubt.
But he wanted the defense to play us honest and not try and do stuff different. You're watching film going into the game. So I mixed in the first, quarter or two, whatever it was. And then once Tyler settled in and got his stuff, Tyler was the guy to go with it. And he played amazing. And I've always been a big fan of Tyler Gronke. He's a good friend. And that was awesome what he did.
Yeah.
And then I remember looking at him before Dan Kelly went to kick. I'm like, yo, whether we make this or not, bro, that was, I gave him his credit where the credit was due.
Oh, he had a phenomenal game.
And then as far as Dan Kelly goes, man, this guy is a character. He's very much a character. And so he goes to kick the game-winning field goal, and they ice him. So the field goal goes right through the uprights, and then Holt called the timeout, and it was like, no good. And it was like a long 40-yard field goal.
Oh, yeah, long. It was about 50 almost, yeah, basically.
And so now, it changes the whole. We made it, we would have won, but now we got to do it again. And Dan Kelly walks up and knocks it even more down the middle.
Yep.
And then he turns and he points to Coach Holt.
Yeah.
And the team was just like, oh my God, this is like this. It was so cool. It was such a great moment. And then, yeah, we had a blast, man. It was a really fun, a fun trip and showed what a team we had, Obviously, a lot of attention comes to the starting quarterback, but that game showed how good of a team we had.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to talk about as well, because you are surrounded by great teammates who supported you and needed to have your back, because they needed to do everything they could to allow you to be able to be as effective as you were. And, now we're talking about it's Thanksgiving, and I remember being around the Thanksgiving table, holding hands with my family and doing the prayer and saying, I'm so thankful that we're undefeated and now we got to play Boise. But just talk about going into those games. I mean, those are the games that we think about, especially a WAC title on the line.
Well, I think after both my sophomore and junior year, we barely lost to Boise. We could have won both those games. And so we had a little bit of an attitude going into that Boise game. We were like, man, this is it. This is our time. I remember speaking to the team before the game. I was fired up. But it was like, not today. This is our day. Not today. Boise ain't going to do this today. This is our day. And, we played a great game. But we, that senior year, 2007, man, that it felt like business, you know, but business was good, man. We felt it. We knew we had the talent. We knew we had the opportunity, and we really went out and grasped the opportunity and ran with it. And I just remember it was just from the first day of practice up until the minute before the game, dude. We just wanted to beat Boise. And it
Singular
was just,
focus,
it was zeroed in focus on it.
Well, that game also brought out a lot of, fans who still remember and still talk about it. But, the following week, the same thing happens. You got to come from behind or a little bit more. Well, we'll talk about the UW game separately. But because we get to run on the field where I got stopped by police, but whatever. I had 2, which is crazy, but I'm a hooligan, so that's why. But I got to you at the UW game, but that game, it's like, okay, we won this game, we're champions, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then it's like, oh, this UW team is coming in. Oh, they're kind of good, but their record, I don't know, kind of junk, but wow, they freaking just hit us in the mouth right at the beginning.
Yeah, man, it was gut check time. Obviously Jake Locker's a very talented quarterback, and he was young in his career, and the team didn't have the best win-loss record, but they were still Pac-12 and talented, And I remember we had a couple messed up fumbles, and so they caught the momentum early on, and then but right before the half, we just started to kind of make our run, and we started just taking chunks out of the score, getting it, and then Jason Rivers made that great catch in the corner. I scrambled out and threw it to him, and it's raining, and he makes this great catch, and it's like how did the ref even mess that call up in the beginning? It was so obviously a touchdown. But then going into halftime, it was like the butterflies were done. All right, we got this, and let's go get it.
Yeah.
And it just like the game was. The amazing part is we go down and we score. And now all we have to do is burn, they just said, it's like 30 seconds, 20 seconds left to go in the game. And Jake Locker throws that 70-yard pass down to their goal line. And it's like, oh, shit, we're back in it. But,
I know.
But that was how the game went. But that comeback, I mean, that's like, that's better than a movie.
Yeah, it was. And being able to run on the field, being able to, see you get hoisted, see people knock your helmet, which people were like, hey, he just had a concussion, stop hitting his helmet. But the day after, a lot of us woke up and drove to Manoa, and that moment, wow, being in Stan Sheriff for that moment was so electric. And I still remember feeling just like, wow, we're here and we made it. And just talk about that moment.
Yeah, that was a great moment. Like you said, I always, it's funny. I look back, it's like I always wanted to be in that kind of atmosphere, right? And I'd hoped that I would go to a college where that's possible, right? So I was hoping I'd get a full ride to Oregon or Washington, and then but even when you play for those big teams, it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily make it to that.
No.
And to come here to Hawaii and to have the success we had, and to realize that we were at the I don't know, what is it, 8 teams that are in the BCS, that year or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like out of 8 teams, we were one of them, dude. It was crazy.
It was crazy. And that's when the ride started, and that's when we're like, man, we're going to go to New Orleans. And droves of people flew from Honolulu Airport to New Orleans, or flew to LA and drove, or flew to Dallas, because everybody needed to be there for that moment, that week. And I have special memories from that time in New Orleans. But outside of the game, just talk about what you remember from New Orleans and that time.
It was an awesome experience. Dude, it was just a lot of fun. The first 2 nights we didn't have curfew, so because we were there for we were there for 9 days practicing before the game. Yeah. And so we all got to go out and get our taste of, New Orleans in and have fun. And there were some really fun nights. And then as the game, then we got into game week came. And, I look back at a lot of things, and that were in our control, that were out of our control.
Yeah.
I think we definitely overestimated Georgia. We really started to, our heads got big, so to speak. I remember our whole mentality was like, yo, man, it's just another game. It's just another game. Don't get caught up in all the BS. Don't get caught up in all the BS. And then I remember Pastor Norm was telling me that the day of the game at chapel, we had like 5-6 guys that went to chapel that morning. And Georgia had like 80-something all in coat and tie.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, oh, shoot.
Wow.
And so that was a business game because I think they thought they could have been in the national championship.
They could have. Absolutely could have.
And they wanted to make a. And then there was a lot of things I look back on. Is I think we just like, oh, we'll do what we do. We know how to adjust on the fly. We know how to. But the biggest thing was that. I think our snap count was the biggest thing. I think we always had silent count, but all we did was lift the foot, and it's deafening in the Superdome.
Oh,
it is deafening.
Absolutely.
And all I could do was just lift my foot to get the snap. And going into that game, we should have had 3 or 4 different ways for me to call for the snap. And when Marcus Howard was a 4.3 40 guy, the DN, the player of the game,
right
was
at the
running
edge.
a 4.3 40. I mean, all I'm doing is lift. It's like a race, dude.
Yep.
And I don't, I wouldn't even. It wasn't my lineman's fault. It wasn't my fault. It just we walked into a buzzsaw, and we really got hit in the mouth. But I'm just glad that we kept fighting. I mean, I kept fighting until I only thing that sucked was I got spun around and the guy drove my head into the turf, and I blacked out. And I'm kind of like in the fetal position on the ground, and then you can see when I wake up because my legs come back to me and everything. But yeah, I remember after the game, a lot of Georgia players were like, "Yo, that dude's tough." And even when I went to the sideline, me and CJ Hawthorne during the TV timeout, went to the sideline. We were talking to Coach Rick. He's like, "Yo, we respect you guys a lot and everything." And even though we were getting our ass kicked, I thought we did it like men. And
absolutely, yeah.
And the only thing that really made me upset about that whole game is like, you're riding high for so long, and then it was like I heard like even when I did this interview with this guy Levi, who was just a total douchebag, after I got in trouble with a DUI years ago, and he kind of made up this whole narrative about me, and he tried to grill me like, we heard you were partying the night before the game and all this stuff like that. All that was total BS. I can tell you that. My second drive, I went 7 for 7 right down the field on Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, that was just all made up, and that's part of the limelight and everything.
Yeah.
I heard my girlfriend broke up with me. I heard I was out partying the night before. You hear all this BS, and it was just utterly bullshit. It was not true by any means of the way. We were so excited to play in that game. We couldn't wait to go out there and showcase ourselves. I think we just forgot that it was different than just some game. It was way different. This is like show up to church in the morning with a coat and tie, all 80 players committed, and because it was, it was the way it was, like they had these really cool game rooms, which I really enjoyed. And like, they had like Xboxes and PlayStations, and they had snacks and everything. And like by our 3rd or 4th day there, you'd walk into that and it would just be 80 to 90 people that weren't even on the team, just friends and family of teammate guys, and then the hotel would be swarmed with people. It's like you're just trying to hide the whole time.
Yep.
And basically, one of the best parts though is on a couple of the Xboxes, they had all the classic Hawaii games. So like I remember staying up one night watching all the great games of the past, which I never really had much of a chance to do, but learning about the history of Hawaii going into the game and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we just got in over our head. We didn't realize what a challenge it was going to be from top to bottom, and we got hit in the mouth. But I think we took it like men. That's the only thing I can say about that.
And I think you made us proud. Just seeing us being represented, and by us I mean our local people, seeing us feel that we're on the same level. Even as fans, people doubted us. Like nobody, to me, I don't feel any comparison to anybody who does what I do for our team. It's just as a fan alone, I love this team, and a lot of our fans love our team because of it represents who they are at their core as local people in Hawaii, and that's something that I know a lot of people forget sometimes. But we'll always remember that. We're always gonna remember that that love and that passion that you had for us more than anything else, you know, and that's what's really important. But from then on, you do get drafted into the NFL, and you know, just talk about that whole period for you and what you learned during that time as well.
Well, I went to the Sugar Bowl, which is the All-Star game coached by NFL coaches, and I remember like the third or fourth day, I dropped back and I felt this giant pop in my head. And I was doing really good at practice. You know, I think I got even named as like team captain. And so I was killing it at practice.
This is Alabama, right? The Senior Bowl.
Down in Alabama, Mobile, I believe. And so it was fun being down there. It was fun being in this kind of atmosphere with all these potential first round, and all these NFL coaches. Experience was awesome, but I was stressing. Day 3, 4, 5, 6 going in because and they bring in trainers, but they're not like. So I'm like, yo, man, my hamstring's killing me. My, and so I walked into that game. I should have just, looking back, I should have realized I hurt myself, and I should have, just been like, got a good week of practice in, but the game wouldn't have been the best decision. And then shortly after that, and I didn't do great, and it gave all the critics their ammo to really blast me and crush my stock. And then about a couple days after that, I went to the doctor, and I tore the labrum in my hip. And so now I had to wait till my pro day to notify all the teams that I would be having surgery before the draft, on my hip.
Yep.
Which is like ironic when you think of Tua this past year. What he had to go through.
Exactly. You're the first person I thought of when he had a surgery. The first person. Yes.
And so, what sucked though is, I went to the NFL Combine. I couldn't run the 40, and then I did everything else. And when we went to do the routes versus air with all the receivers, I scored 100% on like 20-something plays.
Wow.
It was like 22 for 22 or whatever the case was. And I remember even USA Today, like Brennan breathes new life into his draft stock, but it didn't do anything. No one cared, so that sucked. And then I had to announce to all the teams that I was having surgery. So the draft process was pretty miserable for me.
Yeah. I can understand
it really
that.
sucked.
Yeah.
Knowing that I was a potential first rounder the year before, and being like, my agents being like, you might not get drafted. It was just like, oh my God, like how disheartening was that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just watched a lot of BS in the whole process, and these so-called experts and scouts, the McShays and the Mel Kipers. I mean, these guys get greased by by agents to talk about certain guys. It's such a political world.
Absolutely.
And those guys they're bad for the game, man. And they make a lot of money just talking trash on kids and talking kids up. And whenever you look at their record for it's always not very good. They're not very good at their jobs. So anyways, though, I got crushed by them, and then I get to the Redskins. Thank God I get drafted. I was still pissed off.
I don't blame you.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
but it was still somewhat like, okay. And I remember I loved going and getting over to the Redskins. I couldn't practice in the beginning because I was still recovering from the injury. And then, boom, I started practicing, started getting ready. And then the preseason rolled around, and that, I felt like that was my karma for what I had to go through in the draft process. My first game, I was on the first televised game of the year at the Hall of Fame game. I went 9 for 10.
Yep.
For two touchdowns. Yep. And then a couple weeks later, Brett Favre's first preseason game for the New York Jets. We were down. I got put in. I went 4 for 5, drove him down for the game-winning score. Yep. And it's interesting because I ended up having 4 surgeries my 3 years that I was in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it was almost like that rookie year was almost too good to be true. That there was something that was like it's almost like life knew that, that challenges were going to be on the horizon.
Of course,
and God, that rookie year was just the best. I mean, everyone. I was really beloved by the people in Washington, and I had a lot of fun, and
my aunt bought me your jersey, actually, so I still have your Colt Brennan. I'm not a Redskins fan, but I still have that jersey. It's awesome to break it up.
And I remember, I got to go to other sporting events, and I got to feel what it was like to be, even though I wasn't the starter, I got to feel the limelight in the NFL. And then my second year rolled around, and I started to feel that tightness in my other leg. And sure enough, in the preseason, I got tackled, and I tore my other labrum. And this time, because I was playing on it hurt, I tore my hamstring as well. So I was IR'd my second year. I had to go and have major surgery. And basically, when you're on IR and you have a season-ending surgery like that, your schedule's like 4 to 5 days a week just showing up and doing rehab. And, then that's it. And then I was really excited when Shanahan and them came in. And, of course, I got in the best shape of my life. I showed up just ready to roll. And I ended up tearing my meniscus early on in training camp or whatever, maybe even before the first training camp. So I missed a bunch of training camps, and then I finally came back, and it wasn't long after that I got released after my fourth surgery. And then I got in a bad car accident not long after that. And then, it was that quick I got there, and that quick it was all over.
Well, for you, Colt Brennan, you're never going to be different than what you were in a lot of our minds. But at the same time, heroes have to show vulnerability. They have to show nobody is perfect. Nobody is ever going to have a journey that's one straight line all the way up. But just talk about what you've been learning about yourself in this time, and how your life has the new purpose, or what purpose your life has, and how you're growing through that as well right now.
Well, yeah, it's been a rough 9.5 years ever since the car accident. I suffered traumatic brain injury, which was a nightmare my first 2 years after the accident. I was manic. I have insomnia to this day, and still a lot of chemical imbalances in my brain. I started to get involved in substances and stuff like that to try and people will say self-medicate, but for me, I just didn't know how to deal with myself. And I think when you ask yourself, I ended up a couple years after the accident, I ended up going to the Center for Neuro Skills in Bakersfield, California, and I did extensive neurological rehabilitation. When I got there, I graded out at an 8th grade level. And by the time I left, I was once again a college graduate. And I learned a ton of compassion and empathy because of watching all these people go through what I had gone through. But theirs were so much worse. The two guys I lived with, a little younger than me, one guy fell off the skateboard. The other guy had flatlined, was no oxygen to the brain. And just watching them battle, because, I was a higher functioning TBI patient. But I learned a ton of compassion and empathy, and then mostly I learned, your brain is a muscle, and it has every ability to compensate for a traumatic brain injury. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that you're going to be off balance and stuff like that. But it's kind of keeping focused and keeping disciplined and understanding your feelings, your emotions, and understanding. I do a lot of therapy. I see a lot of doctors. And as time has progressed, it's gotten better and better. And, I've had my ups and downs with substances. Obviously I had a bad mistake this past December, but what I realized, when I got out, I suffered a blood clot on my spine, I think close to 2 years ago. And I spent 9 months in the hospital. And then I came out here to Big Island. I had a great physical trainer. I had a therapist, a psychiatrist. I had all these things going for me out here, and I coached a Pop Warner team. And it was like the funnest year I ever had, And,
Awesome.
and I was really doing great, and the community was really proud of me, and I was just so in love with these kids and helping them out. And then this past year, I had to go back to Oahu, and I live out in the country in Oahu. I live out in the east side, out in the sticks, and basically, I found myself real isolated. And I'd look out at beautiful beaches and basketball courts, and I still have to learn how to walk. I'm still learning how to walk. All the nerves died in my feet when I got the blood clot on my spine, and so. At first, I was in a wheelchair, then I was in crutches, then I had a cane with a brace on my leg, and then now I have a different brace that's lighter. But the ability for me to walk and run again is still sometime down the road. But I really got mixed up in some bad depression, and I used to think depression was was weakness. I used to but like it was like physically depressed and physically in a bad place, and that's when I when I've been in these moments before, I just don't care. I just don't, I'm just. And when I got in trouble this past December, I was definitely in that place. And looking back at it, it was like, thank God it happened that way. Because if I had been drinking and driving and I got in an awful accident, or someone got hurt or injured, like, thank God it happened with the fender bender and me having to take responsibility for my actions. It could have been awful. And so I think I've done a ton of work these last 5 months, 4 months, whatever it's been since that moment, and I've come just such a long way. And I think I'm ready to find my purpose, get back out there and start really living again. And I have every ambition to coach. I'm really looking for a job right now, either on Oahu or Big Island. I love the Big Island. I'm a avid deep sea fisherman. My dad runs a deep sea tournament out of Mexico here. His uncle, my great uncle, caught a world record here.
Wow.
And so I love the ocean. I love that you can fish right here, I bounce between Big Island and Oahu. I want to find a job. I want to coach football for the youth.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to continue to give back to the community and to continue to do positive things for the people of Hawaii and the state.
Well, along the way, and you talked about the 9.5 years being a difficult time. Do you have anything to say to people that you might have heard along the way, or any because there are people that will say, Colt Brennan, they don't, and it has nothing to do with that. I mean, what do you say to those people who are thinking right now, who's this guy trying for a comeback? Because, some people aren't always open to second chances like we are, because we love Colt Brennan. He is our hero. Yeah. He is going to be that guy for us forever, and I'm telling you that right now. But our heroes have flaws, and they need to show vulnerability, and you do such a good job of that, Colt. You make us realize that we're all human as well, and, the stuff that we're dealing with. But for you, how do you respond to people like that?
One thing is you always got to have your side of the street cleaned. If somebody says that and somebody projects some type of, negative thing on what I've done, I haven't done anything wrong. Whenever I've gotten in trouble with the DUIs, that's like me just isolated, trying to,
No
it's
worries.
me isolating myself and not being a part of the community, not being connected to people. When I go out and get connected and get involved with people, like, that's just fun. And I give back. I've got a very, very genuine heart.
Yeah.
I have a lot of compassion for people, and I love this place. I love the state of Hawaii. Those people can say that all they want. That's fine. But it's not going to stop me from coaching these kids. It's not going to stop me from giving back. It's not going to stop me from enjoying today. It's not going to stop me from being somebody that makes a positive difference in this world.
Well, that's awesome to hear, because we don't want you to go anywhere, Colt Brennan. We want you to stay in Hawaii.
Man.
We want you to stay and bring back the memories that you helped develop for us, because that period in time, your career, is a time that will stand still for a lot of people in their minds. And we need to get back to that culture. We need to get the people back in the stands. We need to bring that back. So we need your help to do that too, Colt Brennan.
No, I'm down. I have every intention, once I get back to Oahu here in a little over a month, I have every intention to go see Coach Graham.
Awesome.
I have some ambitions to maybe go back to the UH and take a couple classes. I love to help out with the team. Being that I know Hawaii practices in the morning, I can take some classes, and then wherever I decide to coach, I can go do the afternoon coaching thing.
Yeah.
And then even fit in the work schedule. So, like, I have every ambition to try and give back. And like any new coach, it's not easy.
No.
And so I'd love to try and help out where I can. And when I get back there, I'll definitely be on that mission as well.
Well, also give you a chance to talk about your family. I know you have a little one, I believe, as well. And you want to talk about that?
I don't have any kids yet.
Oh, you don't have any kids? Oh, yeah. Was that your nephew or something? Okay, I didn't know you had a nephew. Okay. I thought you were a daddy or something. I'm like you, bro, and I'm good right now with children. The team is my kids, so as long as we take care of that, we got a lot.
Yeah, no, I have every ambition and every desire to have a big family. I came close a couple times, but my ex-girlfriend at the time, she just didn't want to do it. So So basically, I can't wait for that aspect. But all my sisters have kids. My little sister just had her first baby.
That's the best.
Well, technically last year. So I'm an uncle to one nephew and two nieces. And then, my parents are in California, and we all still have a really close relationship. And, things are good. And I think that my parents are proud of me these last couple of months, what I've been doing and how much I've been trying to really do what's right, not only for me, but for the people around me.
So you've hung them up, the pads? Are they hung up forever, or is this you sound like you are on a mission. That's why, to get back to doing a lot, and we've seen a lot of your development already. What's impossible though?
Yeah, well, like I just miss the athleticism that's been taken out of my surfing, body surfing, golfing, playing basketball is my favorite pastime. And so.
They got a lot of good players in Kona too. I gotta say, they got some ballers out there in Kona.
And so I just miss, I was like, I always, and you have to. I fancy myself a pretty awesome athlete, and you have to.
Yeah.
I miss being able to do that stuff, and I think I can't. I'm just working right now to have a chance to do that again. I want to be someone that's in their 40s, still in shape.
Yeah.
Still, I want to get into. I've been really into. I used to have the one-man paddle and go out and. And do that all the time with my buddy. He was on one of the 6-man teams here in Kona that was really good, but he would take me out. I bought one off him. We would go out. So I definitely want to get into paddling. I want to get into being physically active. I miss it. And having it taken away from me for close to 4 years now has been pretty miserable.
Yeah.
So I'm just working to be an athlete again. But I can't take any shots to the head. That's the only thing.
No, yeah. I mean, you've taken a lot of shots everywhere. But, when you look back at your playing days again, if you could go back, I know Sean had asked me to ask you, if you go back and just pick any team and any one of your boys or play an opponent again, who would it be? And we still have Colt. Or did I burn your phone battery? Sean Iman, this is your question, Sean Iman. I was just about to get it in. We'll wait for Colt, hopefully, to come back, or his phone might have died, because that happens as well. But it looks like he's still on. But we'll wait for Colt. And in time, thank you for joining us if you are. This has been a great one-on-one with Colt. If you have anything that you want to ask, please put it in there in the comments. I'll try and follow along. I'm trying to follow along via my phone, so I'm a little bit more behind. But let's see if Colt can start his video. I think, he might have logged off, or his phone might have died. So just like I had in the Around the Wayne, as you see, my second version of myself, not Colt Brennan. But in the meantime, if you want a question, I'll see if he can come back on. I'm not sure. He did give us a great interview. It's over an hour at this point, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So thank you, Kaveh Key at the Bowflow. Go look him up, Kaveh Key. Shane Agno, Hawaii Football Net, Fuchsia Yamashiro, Bradley Duvall, one of my best friends from the beginning, going to all the UH games with me. He's in that video. And of course, Sean Iman, who you've seen a lot of as well. Thank you for supporting this program and our mission here at Hawaii Sports Fans. Colt might have logged off already. His phone probably died. So what we'll do is we'll just sign off. I'll let you guys watch the video again if you haven't. But we had a lot of good stuff. So for Colt Brennan, who's not that guy, and for me, Wayne Coito, the founder of Hawaii Sports Fans, I'll see you guys next time. Aloha.
Tonight they have to prove it. Quick pass. This is complete to Sample. Sample at the 10. Sample at the 5. Touchdown!
COLTBRENNAN, by far the greatest QB. Oh, you don't know? The one that took UH to 12-0. The spiral with the greatest of ease. So many comebacks, triple OTs. Teams on their knees because it hurt. Aloha Stadium going berserk. And you wonder what's your purpose, Colt? It's already wrote, the love of the GOAT. So all my bows, please sing with me and let the world know.
I'm gonna come back, Bobby. It's just, everyone out there would call me literally an idiot if I didn't really, see what the NFL had to
The
say.
nation flat home, they're back warriors, oh warrior, true backs, legend 15 remains
I feel like Coach Jones at the
intact.
University of Hawaii
We love you, Colt.
gave me an opportunity at a time when no one else would. And I've been a part of something special these last 2 years, and I decided to come back for my senior year.
I remember that day vividly, man. I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like thinking, he gonna stay. The next minute, he gonna leave. And that moment that he said he was staying, I swear, I screamed like a girl.
It felt like the entire state was beaming with pride over our team.
That was a great memory for me. That whole season when you guys went 12-0 and on to the Sugar Bowl.
Just thanks for coming to UH. Thanks for picking us. Thanks for bringing us on that magical ride.
Thank you for everything you do, Colt.
A big lead. Well, tonight they have to prove it. Quick pass. This is complete to Sample. Sample at the 10. Sample at the 5. Touchdown!
COLTBRENNAN, by far the greatest QB. Oh, you don't know? The one that took UH to 12-0. The spiral with the greatest of ease. So many comebacks, triple OTs. Teams on their knees because it hurt. Aloha Stadium going berserk. And you wonder what's your purpose, Colt? It's already wrote, the love of the GOAT. So all my bows, please sing with me and let the world know.
I'm gonna come back, Bobby. It's just, everyone out there would call me literally an idiot if I didn't really, see what the NFL had to
The
say.
nation flat home, they're back warriors, oh warrior, true backs, legend 15 remains
I feel like Coach Jones at the University of Hawaii
We love you, Colt.
gave me an opportunity at a time when no one else would. And I've been a part of something special these last 2 years, and I decided to come back for my senior year.
I remember that day vividly, man. I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like thinking, he gonna stay. The next minute, he gonna leave. And that moment that he said